Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to the first patrol in our solo campaign playthrough of Raiders of the Deep from Compass Games. Our crew is ready, our U-boat is ready, we're loaded for provisions to head out into the British Isles and hunt enemy shipping. Let's get this started. In episode 0, we rolled up our crew. Here's a look at our crew. We also gave our commander a name. It is Fritz von Blitz. A quick aside, Beery 1962 alerted me that this image on this player aid actually was the real commander of U-9 at the beginning of World War I. So coincidentally, we rolled up the same U-boat that this commander commanded. His history, this is Otto Weddingen. He was the famous U-boat commander that sank the 3 British cruisers in 1914 that kind of alerted the world to what the U-boats could do militarily. He later was transferred to U-29 and died in service in March 1915 when his U-boat surfaced in front of the British battleship HMS Dreadnought. The Dreadnought rammed the U-boat, cut it in 2, killing everybody aboard. So hopefully we last longer than Otto Weddingen, but hopefully we also have a chance to get as much glory as he did, as he received just about every possible medal that a U-boat commander could get. Also in our first episode, we rolled up our U-boat. It is a type U-5, which is eventually going to get retired from service about halfway through the war, giving us a chance to get a much more potent U-boat at that point in time, assuming we're still around. We've got it loaded up with torpedoes and deck ammo. We're in perfect shape, and we are ready to head out into the ocean. And here is the path that we'll be taking. We'll be leaving Wilhelmshaven here, heading up in the Transit, doing the British Isles loop, and then heading back home. Let's get off and start hunting. It's time to hit the open waters, everybody. Let's get started. First up, we're going to roll on a patrol assignment here. This is basically on a roll of a 12, there's a special agent delivery. Otherwise, it's just a regular mission. We get a 5, which is just a regular patrol here. Now, one thing before we start, too. In World War I, there were what were called cruiser rules for a portion of the war, which meant that you couldn't, and German U-boats operated under these rules for a good portion of the war, which means that you couldn't attack unannounced, unarmed freighters. Now, the game handles this in somewhat of an abstract way, but there is a fan-made mod called Reavers of the Sea by the appropriately named Border Reaver that's up on Board Game Geek, which adds kind of a whole mini game to that procedure. It makes it a little bit more tense. You can have boarding parties, your crew can get hurt, you could get imprisoned by breaking the rules of the cruiser rules and things like that. So it adds kind of a really interesting mini game to the process, and I want to add that into the game because I like that. It seems to add a little bit more drama, and it fits, I think, with the theme of those cruiser rules. So we're adding that into, and we'll talk about that as we get to it. But now, as U-9 leaves the harbor here and heads out into the transit zone, we have to see how our fates handle our first patrol here. Now, we're going to go through the transit zone. These are the dangers. On a roll of a 2, we hit a mine, which is pretty deadly. And then on a 12, we actually run into a ship in the transit zone. We do not want a 2. We want something big here, a 10. That's actually fine. So we get through the first transit zone without incident, and U-9 continues on into the second transit zone. We head forward here. Ooh, almost got a ship, but we didn't. We got nothing there, and we slide out into the British Isles for our first patrol zone. Now, fair warning, the targets here, if we look now here on the British Isles for August of 1914 to February of 1915, and our first patrol is August 1914. On a roll of a 9 to 11, something happens. On a roll of a 2, we hit a submarine net, which I'm pretty sure is bad. But there's a lot of chances here that nothing's going to happen. So this may be an uneventful patrol. We'll see how this goes. In the first zone, we hunt and we get a 6, which turns up nothing. So U-9 heads off further into the British Isles up the coast of Norway. This time we get an 8. Oh, so close. A 9 would have been an unescorted ship. Now, we do need to sink something for a patrol to be successful. So there is a little bit of pressure here as we head into our third zone. Hopefully we get something. 9. Yes, a ship. Okay, so I'm going to roll up on our ship designation chart here to see what ship we've encountered, and then we're going to go from there. Action has started. I'll actually walk through this process on this one because the first time we do it, in subsequent rounds I'll probably just go through this and tell the results. But the first thing we want to do is determine the ship size. We need to roll one die. On a 1 to 5 it's a small freighter. On a 6 it is a large freighter. It's a 1 to 5, so it is a small freighter. Now, we're going to run in later to these things called Q ships, which are basically freighter, warships hidden as freighters. But there are no Q ships at this point in the war, and there are also no depth charges at this point in the war. However, we are operating under cruiser rules, which means we cannot just attack this small freighter with, well, let's see what it is, because it might be a warship. Now, I'm going to show you here the small freighter target roster for 1914. These were actual ships that were sunk by U-boats in the war. There's incredible detail in this chart. But as we can see in 1914, there wasn't much going on. So we've only got 6 potential targets. We're going to roll a 1d6. And the red ones here are warships. So we could run into a warship right away. We get a 2. So the 2 is the small freighter, the Malachite, and so we will put this up and let's set it up for combat here. So I've put our small freighter, Malachite, is here on 2 as target 1. It's the only target available right now. It is unescorted, so there is no escort in the box. We do need to roll whether it's day or night. On a 1 to 3, it's day. Night would be better, but it doesn't really matter for an unescorted ship at this point in time. So it's a 2, which means it is daytime. So we will approach in day, but we are going to come up to it on the surface at close range and begin this process, which is this mini game of a mod. So let's show how this works a little bit. So our process here, as we approach this ship, basically it's daytime, we come up to it on the surface, it is unarmed, and what we're trying to get to do it is give it an opportunity to abandon ship. And we also have the opportunity here to take this as a prize. You can take 1 ship per patrol as a prize, which doubles the value of its tonnage for you in terms of sinking. You basically take the ship back and get everything that's on it. So that would be the ideal outcome here for us. We have 2 options here. We can start with, basically this is a process we work through. We have 2 options. Cruiser rules is to get the ship to heave via signals, which takes 1 round. It's a 1 to 4 success, 5 or 6 is a failure, or we could get the ship to heave 2 via a deck gun warning shot. And this is where if we had that bigger deck gun, it would give us a better chance of success, but we don't. So we're going to try up here on the get the ship to heave via signals, which means that we need a 1 to 4 to get it to successfully heave 2. Let's approach and see if we can signal it saying, "You are doomed, Malachite, give it up." Oh, 5. We fail. So now we go to round B. But, however, between every one of these rounds, that's where this gets a little bit risky. Between every one of these rounds, there's a chance that an escort shows up. So we have to roll for the encounter chart here for August 1914 to July 1917 to see if an escort shows up. On a 2 to 5, it shows up. On anything greater, it doesn't show up, and we can go to step B basically uninterrupted here. A 9, excellent. So no escort shows up, but now we go here to get the ship to heave 2 via a deck gun warning shot. So they have ignored our signals here. On a 1 to 3, it's a success. And the die roll modifiers, again, if we had the bigger gun, it would have helped. If it was not preceded by signals, it would be +1, but it was. So basically we need a 1 to 3 to succeed this time. Come on, Malachite, give it up. A 4, gosh, we had a bigger deck gun, we would have scared them there. It did not, so failure, we go to next round, which is C, but once again, we have to roll to see if an escort shows up. This is going sideways fast. They are not being helpful here at all. Oh, a 6, I thought one was gonna show up, the 2 landed first. So good, no escorts, we can go to round C. This rather stubborn ship here. Let's see what happens in round C. So in round C, we are going to try to get the ship to strike its colors with a shell aimed at non-vital superstructure or rigging. We're going to roll 2d6, and we can see here 2 to 4 is fire ineffective, and that means we're going to actually try to sink it. We don't really want to do that because that could lead us to get court-martialed and imprisoned and all that kind of stuff. 5 to 8 is success with minor damage. 9 to 11 is success, but we can't take it as a prize. And 12 would be success plus 2 damage, and there would be an inquiry at the end of this patrol. We don't want any part of an inquiry to start our U-boat career. So we're hoping for something in the middle here. Let's see what we get. We get a 7. Success. Only minor damage. Proceed to D or E the next round. This is excellent. So we've got that, but once again, we could be kind of approached by an escort ship here, hoping for another nice big number. Oh, seriously? Here come the escorts. Okay, so the escorts have showed up as the ship just was striking its colors. This is bad news. So I'm piecing together how this mod works with the core rules, and what's definitely happened is that the escort has appeared and we immediately have to undergo escort detection. So instead of being able to board or get the ship to abandon ship because we never got there, the Malachite stalled just long enough for the escort to show up, and we have to abort that attempt to either take the ship or to get them to abandon ship, which means we have to dive immediately. And there are no depth charges, but ramming is possible here. But first we have to see if the escort shows up and finds us once we have dived below the surface here. We're going to make our die rolls on the escort detection chart. No modifiers for range apply, and there are no other modifiers that apply at this time. So we need an 8 or less to be undetected. We get a 6. Excellent. So we are undetected, and this encounter ends. The small freighter Malachite now, I assume, is going to resume its process. We are hidden under the water. The escorts didn't find us. We do have the option here then to follow this ship, which I think we will do. So it actually took me a while to sort that out because of these cruiser rules where you can't attack civilian ships, but it's only if they are unescorted. So now because this escort has shown up and they didn't detect us, this combat ends. We have the option of following and then trying to attack again if that's successful. Because the small freighter is now escorted, as the commander of U9 here, I'm interpreting it that the cruiser rules no longer apply, because the cruiser rules apply to unescorted freighters. So we're taking advantage of this and we're going in. Now we need a 1 to 4 to successfully follow it. Then we can see if it's day or night. We get a 1. So we've successfully hung on to this small freighter here, the Malachite. It has been kind of annoying because it delayed its surrender long enough for the escort to show up. Now we have to see if it's day or night. It is a 3, so it's daytime. Do we go in at daytime or do we wait and try to shift until night? Yeah, we're gonna try to shift to night. So we're gonna hang out on the outside here and see if we can follow it through the day. Shift to night. We need a 1 to 4 to be successful. We get a 2. Excellent. So we are successful. It is now nighttime and we can come in either on the surface or submerged. Let's think about that. Okay, after much deliberation with our first watch officer, Von Williams, we've decided to take a little bit of the less risky approach. We're going to come in at medium range submerged. Now we could have tried to get into close range and on the surface and fire both our forward and aft torpedoes, which would give us a lot more of a range of torpedoes and a spread of torpedoes. But this is a tiny target, and coming in close would make detection afterwards pretty deadly. So we're going to kind of be a little bit more cautious here. We're going to come in submerged at medium range and fire these 2 G6 torpedoes from the front of our U9 here. We need a 0 to 7 to hit. There are no modifiers that apply to this right now. I'm going to use, and then the dud roll on a G6 is 1 to 2. So we're going to fire twice. The white dice will represent the 2 hit. We need a 7 or less. And then the black die will represent the dud roll. So hoping for a hit here. We get a 6 on the white, which hits, and it's a 4, which means it's not a dud. So our first torpedo slams into the Malachite. Yes, vengeance on this pesky devil. Now we have one more shot. Let's get a second hit on it. We get a 7 and a 5. Bang! Second torpedo. Von Williams firing up the coordinates there and drilling the Malachite twice. It's a small freighter with only 2 hit points. Let's roll for damage now. It's doomed though, because there's nothing it can do. The first torpedo slams into the side for a 3, doing 2 damage and sending it to the bottom of the ocean already. The second torpedo hits it again with a 5 and does an additional damage, putting on misery onto misery here. We've sunk our first ship. The Malachite goes to the bottom of the ocean. Outstanding. But now comes the detection roll. We're using the Escort Detection chart here. There are no die roll modifiers that apply because we didn't come into close range. We're good, and we didn't do the double attacks there. We're pretty good. So this is this payoff. Look, this could pay off well if we can get away. We need an 8 or less to be undetected. A 7, yes. U9 slips away into the night, leaves the Malachite a burning hulk. We've got our first victim. Congratulations to the crew. Outstanding. And so this encounter, this long drawn out encounter that started in the daytime a while ago, escorts showed up, but we still came back and followed it and put it to the bottom of the ocean. An excellent start for us. Let's now go back to our travel zone here, and we have one more zone to search. So after a successful hunt here to the north of Ireland, we go a little bit farther to the west. We reload our torpedo tubes, by the way, with those C6s. Be nice to get another ship here. We'll take it if we see one, but let's see what happens here. Oh no, we get a 2. That's bad. That's very bad. A 2 is a submarine net. What's a submarine net doing way out here? Oh, this is bad. What happens with a submarine net encounter is that you get stuck in the net and an escort can show up. So it forces a roll on the Escort Detection chart. And there is a +1 modifier attached to that. So normally an 8 or less means we are undetected and we would escape the submarine net. But a 0 to 7 now because we get a +1 here. Let's slip away. Come on, guys, cut that net. Oh, that's bad. An 11 +1 is a 12, means it's detected, and a +1 attack die roll modifier. Uh-oh, this is bad. U9 in serious trouble. So with the detection, shifting over here to take a look at our U-boat mat, we're getting a ramming attempt on it. The die roll modifiers that apply are +1 because they get a 12 on the escort detection roll. I don't think the +2 ramming attack if the U-boat is detected on the surface applies. It sounds like these submarine nets were underwater and it was like kind of a buoy that would alert nearby escorts. I can't find any rules clarification quite on that, but I'm assuming it doesn't apply. So we will just do the +1 modifier here. Now an unmodified 7 or less with a ramming attack means that there's no effect. Otherwise there are hits involved here. Oh, we get an 8. +1 is a 9. Oh wow, we take 3 hits here by the ramming attempt. Okay, so now we have to roll for damage. Wow, this has gone sideways fast. We have 3 hits to go. The black number will be the first die roll, and we'll see how we do. Hopefully we can make it through this. A 15 are the dive planes. Okay, so dive planes are damaged. So we'll drop down here for the damaged dive planes. We'll put that in effect. Let's see what happens with the next roll. Got a 24. 24 is minor damage. Minor damage is nothing there. That's good. Okay, excellent. Good. And then the third one here, 65. Hull times 2. Oh, that's not good. So hull times 2, it's going to add 1 month to our refit here as well, assuming we survive here. But that was actually the 3rd hit. So we get under, suffering damage to dive planes and some significant hull damage, being rammed by whatever escort caught us in the submarine nets. And because there are no depth charges in the war right now, we managed to escape. I mean, we got damaged pretty badly here. We're going to try to fix our damaged dive planes now. DM Tim, our engineer, will get to work on these dive planes. We need a 1 or a 2 to fix them. Otherwise, they are inoperable. Oh, he fixes them. Good job, DM Tim, our engineer. Fired up and does a good job. U9 here, badly banged up and indented. Heading back to port now, finally. That ends the encounter out here. Let's go take a look back at our map. One quick thing that I just noticed with the Type U5 is that the patrols here designate for the U5 only 3 British Isle zones. I think this was such a short-range U-boat that it couldn't get to that 4th zone. Some of the other U-boats have the ability to search 4 zones. We only have 3, which meant we shouldn't have actually gone to that 3rd zone and to the submarine nets. But we'll play it out that way, but in the future I'll do the right amount of zones for the patrol. And with that, however, we finally head back to our transit zone here. And that is a little marker there. You can see that's the shortened route for the other U5 here. So that was an error on my part. But we do get to these final 2 transit zones. Hopefully we can make these without incident here. So let's roll through and see what happens. So our first one, we get a 7. We're through the first zone here without incident. Excellent. And we go into the final zone. See if we get home. An 11. Whoa, we almost ran into a ship, but we did not. And we head home into Wilhelmshaven, safely back in after our first, what turns out to be a rather epic and drawn out patrol. That whole encounter with the Malachite there was really remarkable. Okay, let's sum up what happened here. Back in port, it's time to refit the U9 here. Now, normally refits take a month to do. So normally we refit in September and we back out in October. But for this U-boat, this black line designates any fraction of hull damage within that range adds 1 month to the refit. So to fix our hull back up, we have to add another month to the refit. So that's going to make our refit 2 months long. We have no other damage to the submarine, so there's no other lengthening of the refit period. So we'll be in port September and October, back out to sea in November. Our patrol was a success, which means that Fritz von Blitz gets an Iron Cross 2nd class for his first successful patrol. That's excellent. Crew advancements come after every 3 successful patrols, so we will check on that if and when we get there. Other than that, our crew stays the same. Let's summarize the results of our patrol, though, before we kind of enjoy our 2 months of rest and recuperation. So on our first patrol in the British Isles, we engaged the Malachite, tried to get it and board it and capture it as a prize ship, but an escort showed up. We followed the ships and waited until night, at which time we sunk the Malachite with 700 tons, giving us a total tonnage sunk of 700 tons and 1 small freighter. Our first sinking of the war. We escaped detection and slipped away only to get caught in submarine nets and rammed by an escort, damaging our hull, lengthening our refit. A rather eventful first patrol here, but we made it through. We'll see you back out in our next episode in November of 1914 as the U9 heads back out to sea. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.